Greetings! Welcome back to another Wild Medicine podcast. This is your host, Earthny, and I'm so excited to be in front of my mic and getting ready to record another podcast for you guys. Wild Medicine is a sacred space where I am able to facilitate the magical wonders of healing within our world. We explore topics on folk medicine, crystal healing, herbal magic, and the beautiful art of storytelling. Guests from all over the world are welcomed onto this podcast to share their medicine stories so that we can all gain the awareness of what it truly means to live in a holistic life, staying mindful of taking care of ourselves and the many generations to come. I invite you to sit back and relax, maybe get a cup of tea and a notebook so that you can write down the powerful key points of this podcast and take away any magic that feels good for you. In this week's episode, I am bringing on a beautiful guest named Mama Solaris. And she is honestly such a very powerful woman, and I'm so thankful I was able to connect with her more through this podcast. Her name is Sia, like the singer, and she is a mother of one child in Charlotte, North Carolina. She is an entrepreneur, a mother who also hosts an empowerment coaching course to help mothers find their spiritual wellness and find modalities such as meditation, channeling, and mindfulness practices to help their experience in motherhood. It is her calling to assist women in this world who are bearing children to find their soul's purpose and to create a life that they truly love and that will invoke a new sense of wonder and connectedness within their children. After only having her child for 8 months, after dating the father of her child for 8 months, she fell pregnant unexpectedly. And it really flipped her entire world upside down as she found herself starting to take on this huge new role. And so for the first year of her child's life, she co-parented within a romantic relationship with the father, but they lived separately. She was about 16 when she got pregnant. But in that year of January, she came to the realization that relationship was very toxic and codependent and did not serve either of them or their child. And so she took the authority to put an end to it. And since then, they've been navigating a world with a relationship that is strictly just being parents to their son and making sure that they're co-parenting with clear communication. And she hasn't been very vocal about this, so this podcast was an experience where she was finally ready to kind of open up about what she was going through and talk about things that are more sensitive within relationships, especially for mothers, and how we can really build protective boundaries around ourselves and our children for raising them in a healthy environment and not feeling subject to being in an unhealthy relationship just for the sake of our children. And so this was a topic that when she approached me to get on the podcast and to record on this topic, I was honestly very moved by it. I was very excited to, bridge a new conversation around motherhood that I feel like isn't that oftenly talked about. I mean, I've never really listened to a podcast or let alone had a conversation before this where we did talk about co-parenting and teaching mothers how to kind of hold space for themselves through difficult relationships with the father of their child. So I'm really excited for all the knowledge that she has to share in this podcast and, the different worlds that we're going to open up through this conversation and the healing that's going to come from it. I invite you, if there's a moment that you just really feel jazzed about and you're like, oh my gosh, that struck me to my soul, please take a screenshot of where it was at and tag me on Instagram at earthny_energy or the Wild Medicine Podcast Instagram so that we can share it with others so that they can also go to and listen to that spot and really invite that knowledge into their soul as well. If you enjoy this podcast, it helps me greatly if you can leave a 5-star review on iTunes, or really any review on iTunes. 5 stars is always the best. But that really helps me get more up there on the ranking, which will be easier for me to invite other people onto the podcast for you guys so that we can share even greater and wider medicine of this world. So thank you guys so much. Sit back, relax, enjoy, and let's go ahead and just dive deep into this podcast. Namaste. All right, Sia, welcome to the podcast. How's it going?
Hi, it's going great. I am so happy to be here.
Awesome, good stuff. So, we'll just roll straight into the podcast. You can go ahead and just if you can please go ahead and just share a little bit about you, pardon me, and where you come from, how you got to be where you are today, and a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Thea, but many people know me as Mama Solaris. I'm a mother of one child. He's 17 months old. And I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm a life coach, and I help mothers empower themselves and create a life that they love. So yeah, it's beautiful work that I do. And I feel like becoming a mother was part of me finding my soul's work.
Oh, that's awesome. Honestly,
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's really cool. So, what's your son's name?
Sage.
Sage. Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So, so you said that, motherhood has really transitioned your life and brought you into this new world that you're living in now. So what does motherhood mean to you, and in what ways has it changed your life, and for the better or for the worse,
Honestly, motherhood really changed my life, in the craziest ways, because I was actually, when I became a mom, I was only 16 when I got pregnant, and it was like a complete life altering situation because I had so many, dreams and aspirations. And then when this responsibility was laid into my lap, it was like I had to completely rethink my life. And I've come to realize that motherhood is basically taking on the responsibility of creating the future of our world, and I know some people may think, oh, I didn't sign up for all that, I just want to raise my one child. But it's when you raise your child, you are literally impacting the way that they impact the world and their future, So as we influence our children, children will grow up and they will influence the world, and they will literally create our future,
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's a big responsibility, and it's not something to be taken lightly at all, because not only do you have the responsibility of, the task of actually caring for the child, but you also have to care for yourself so that you show up in a way that you would want your child to show up in the world,
Yeah. And that comes with so many challenges because, this world isn't like rainbows and butterflies and all good. There are seriously hard things that humanity is growing through collectively and individually at this time. So that can be very difficult, especially being a young mother, especially being a young mother, because I'm sure at that time of your life, you also had things that were insane in your life that you were trying to grow through. And then you have a child and you're carrying them through that and trying to, still build their brain and their perception in a way that's going to be, like you said, good for the future.
Exactly. So it was a whole journey of in that time of your life, you're still trying to find out who you are, and I didn't even know that yet. I didn't know what I wanted to be and how I wanted to show up. And I had to figure that out and also figure out what kind of mother I wanted to be. So it was just such a huge transition, but and it was really hard. It really was. But in hindsight, I realized how it was perfect timing for us. I feel like had he come in a different stage of my life, that things would have gone a lot differently. And I'm happy about where I've ended up and where he's taken me,
Oh, that's so beautiful. That's actually really, really nice to hear. Well, that's cool. So, what is that? Because I understand just from following you for a while on Instagram and just enjoying what you have to share. What is it like to raise a child holistically, within a holistic lifestyle and within being mindful, and what is that like? Because I don't have a child, so I'm very curious to know what that looks like for you, and especially with your own individual stuff that you're going through in your life right now.
Yeah. So it is putting in extra work for sure. It's about being extremely mindful about the way you show up and the way that you parent your child. But you do that knowing that your child will have the tools that they need when they grow up, that they're not going to have to relearn how to live their life when they're adults, because a lot of the times we are indoctrinated with all of these beliefs when we're young. And then when we're an adult, we realize we don't resonate with that anymore. So we have to unlearn all of that and then relearn what is truth for us. So raising my child with the holistic mindset, first of all, is basically giving him a wonderful foundation to build on as he gets older, as he's an adult, and he'll be able to take this knowledge that I instill in him and these values that I instill in him and build on them when he's an adult, and then pass them on to his children if he decides to have children, or pass them on to his friends or anybody that he might consider family.
Yeah. Wow. I totally agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
And so within like life coaching, especially since with your life coaching, you focus more on mothers, right?
Yes.
So like, what is a common thing that you see yourself consistently working through with women, or, what are these commonalities that you feel like a lot of mothers struggle from right now in modern day?
Finding their identity apart from being a mom. Oftentimes when we become mothers, we kind of lose ourselves in the role of just being a mom or just being a partner to our child's other parent, and that's all that our life becomes for such a long time, especially in the beginning when, we have newborns that are just like constantly needing our attention and love. We almost like lose ourselves in that. And I definitely did. And so I went on a journey of finding out, who am I when I take off this role of a mother? Like, obviously I'm always still a mom, but if I were to just act like that role was somewhere else, who am I underneath all of that? And I think that's where a lot of mothers need some extra help in realizing that you can be an incredible mother and also be an entrepreneur and also be an artist and also pursue whatever it is that you want to pursue in life. You can do what you want to do. You don't have to just prescribe to that one role. You can be multifaceted. And that's what I really seek to embody and seek to teach mothers, is that you are capable of being multifaceted and being all the things that you want to be, while also being there for your child.
Oh yeah, 100%. What are some ways that you recommend that like mothers can do that they can hold space for, it's almost like at that point you're retraining your mind to believe that like you can handle that. So like, what are some steps that they can take to like move forward in a direction where they're still focusing on, their personal goals and their personal aspirations, and like holding space for their individuality and their self-expression and love for life and joy for life?
I would say try to find some time to spend by yourself. Like if in a co-parenting situation, you may have more time than most, but if you're not in a co-parenting situation, then find somebody who you trust and make it non-negotiable that every single week you have at least a few hours to yourself. If that's all you can get, then that's fine. You can work with that. And then just use that time to just be with you and get to know you. And maybe even if you have the opportunity, maybe even see if you can go out and interact within the community and get to know who you are when you're not with your child. Because we oftentimes, when we take on this role, it's almost like we kind of become a different person. Like when we're around our children, we're being the mom, we're being that nurturing force. But when you take that away, then you can really get to know who you are underneath it and really sit with yourself. And I would recommend using that time to meditate, use that time to take care of yourself, and just get to know you and fall in love with you and who you are.
That's so sweet. Yeah, because I feel like so many mothers do have a really hard time, like feeling confident and comfortable with like letting somebody else watch their children while they take space for themselves. Usually if you have like you get a nanny, it's because of an obligation that you have like to somebody else or some other thing. It's usually not for, as far as like my experience, I was a nanny for quite a long time, and it was for their obligations. It wasn't for like their own individual like self-discovery. And I think that's so important, and something that a lot of mothers do need to I would invite mothers to actually shift their perception on that and see that holding space, and like even if it's like just for 3 hours, you have to hire a nanny, or let a family friend come over to watch your child so that you can get to know yourself better and do focus on your own self-discovery and individuality. Oh my gosh, like that is such a beautiful resource. And it's something that I totally could see changing a mother's life.
Absolutely. I mean, it is a priority. And that's the thing. So many moms don't make themselves a priority. And you have to, because when you work on yourself, when you get to know yourself, you then in turn become a better person. You become a more mindful person, and you start to show up differently, even in the way that you show up with your children. You know, when you really take care of yourself. And it really is crucial to be the mother that you know that you can be, like be that amazing mom. Like, you know, you have to really take care of yourself and make sure that you make yourself a priority too, you know?
Yeah. And I think that, you know, for most moms, like that's actually really a reality that sometimes can feel unattainable, because it's like, okay, yes, I've eaten, like I need to shower, like those are usually like the basic needs that like they try to, you know, I could see that mothers, especially new mothers, try to like have set like their basic needs, like making sure they're fed and like taking care of themselves. But it's also like, have you had time to sit down today and just breathe? Have you had time to, you know, dance or listen to some music? Have you had time to just like journal? You know, these little things that get you in touch with your soul and your spirit. Because it's you know, it can be hard even to just make those basic needs be met, you know, for yourself. Yeah,
it can be. It really can be, especially in the beginning too. Like I can definitely say when Sage was a newborn, I had zero time to myself, zilch, you know, and it can be really, really hard in the beginning. But during that time, even if it's only like 10 minutes, like I understand sometimes you really don't have any time, even if it's only just 10 minutes that you just sit and breathe every single day. Your baby is sleeping and you have like 10 minutes to yourself. You need to make sure that you make it a priority that obviously you want to make sure your needs are met first, but also your deep like soul needs need to be met as well. And, you know, when you make it a priority, you will find, even if it's just a few minutes, you will find the time. And you'll find that, you know, as your child gets older and they become more independent, then you will start to have a little bit more time, even if you don't have an option for childcare. Even if, like, I always say, like, meditation, for example, is a great self-care practice, and that can look like so many different things. You know, you can meditate while your child is playing by themselves, you know, like you can do it with your eyes open if you feel like you got to watch them, and just breathe. Like
even when they're and especially when they're sleeping too. Like most parents like use the time when their kids are napping to like do chores or like clean up. But if you can even just take like 5 or 10 minutes, like after you finally get them down, and just meditate, hold space for yourself, and then use the rest of that like hour, 2 hours to do the other chores. But I think it comes down to mothers maximizing their time and being mindful of their time, and that's going to be the best thing to help yourself feel like you're actually getting that rejuvenation that you need.
Oh yeah.
And you know, what are some ways, because I feel like one thing that came to my mind is like, I could imagine that it would be hard to even know like what your soul needs are and what your deep needs are as a mother. And what are some ways that you guide your clients through actually finding like what they need for themselves, you know, as a mother?
So we've already, you know, mentioned some really key ones. If you really have no idea where to start, then start with meditation.
Or even if you're scared, being scared to start. Like I feel like some others, I could imagine like there's fear around starting that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand that there is some fear in sometimes there can be fear in facing yourself, you know, because we've kind of neglected our deep soul needs for so long that we almost feel afraid to face them. But just all I can say is you just have to start. You just have to start, you know, making yourself a priority. And so just start with meditation and just sit. It doesn't have to be complex. You don't have to like make it overly complicated and make it this big, scary thing. Just sit down, you know, sit on the floor, like literally like anywhere you can find. Just sit down and just breathe and just be with yourself.
Put your phone
and just
far away.
Exactly. Put your phone somewhere and just be with yourself. And you'll find through just starting with meditation, you'll find things will start to come through. You'll kind of get like inspiration, basically. Like you'll be like, maybe I should write something down, you know, or I kind of feel like I want to take a bath right now, or I kind of feel like I want to go outside and hug a tree. Like you'll start to feel these like little tidbits of like inspiration coming through. And then you'll start following through with the inspiration. Start following through, and you will naturally be guided to the things that your soul needs. Even if it feels kind of crazy, like the hug a tree example. You might be like, oh, I'm not going to go outside right now and just hug a tree. Just do it. you don't know what kind of healing you can get from doing that, from grounding with the earth. Like that might be exactly what you need in this moment. And it is so important that you put not only your basic needs first, but also your soul needs first, you know?
Yeah. And that can lead that will 100% lead you to a space where you can be like just that much better for your child, like
exactly.
Yes, like we might think that like, okay, I'll be a better mom if like I keep this, keep their toys clean and keep the space clean and like not messy or like make them food at this exact time. But then you'll notice, I mean, even me, like not being a mother, just being like an entrepreneur and stuff, like even when I was a nanny, like that was crazy. Like I was watching four kids, like 12 hours a day. It was insane, but taking that time to like just sit down, breathe, meditate, even if there is mess, even if there is dishes, I got that shit done so much faster when I held space for myself because I wasn't as distracted. I knew, what the real things that were needing to be done, because we'll create these hypotheticals in our brain like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do this, got to do this. But then it's like, actually, I don't really need to do that right now. Like,
that's a really key point right there. Like I can relate that to a situation when Sage was a little bit younger. Ryan would only take him out and I would only get alone time maybe about once a week during that time. And I always at that time, I always used the time to clean the house. And I would just they'd be gone for like 5 hours and I'd spend the whole time just cleaning the house and doing laundry. And I realized later, I was like, I'm still not taking care of myself. I'm like doing all of these things and all of these tasks and just going, but never actually sat down to be with myself. And so I realized like, yes, you do have those responsibilities. Yes, you are always going to have to do the dishes and do the laundry. Like we can't just get rid of that stuff. But that can wait. Like you are important. And you can let that wait for another 30 minutes if you need to at the end of the day. Like because your self-care really, really is important too. And you just have to be able to prioritize, because when you think to the future and like, I don't know, when your child is an adult, they're not going to remember how tidy the house was. They're going to remember those memories, those deep, passionate memories that they have with you, as their mother. So do you want to be, the best person you can be and create rich, soulful memories, or do you want the house to be spotless? It's like you kind of have to learn how to prioritize yourself, basically.
Yeah. And and if making sure the house is clean, like, and all that stuff is a priority for you, like you can still do that. Like it's not
absolutely.
It's not like okay, I have to like completely drop like all these other responsibilities just to like take care of myself. And I feel like sometimes that is a perception that a lot of parents have. It's like, oh, but that's, if I do that, then I'm not going to be able to do this, this, and that. And it's like, that's not true. Like you still are going to be able to do it. And that's the thing that a lot of people, share that they find when they start like, even if it's just like a simple morning practice or a meditation practice, is somehow magically you feel like you got more time in the day.
Yes.
If you start your morning meditating, doing some kind of mindfulness practice, even if it's just like the 3 pages, like journaling, it gives your brain a chance to like slow down, catch up, and that makes a ripple effect throughout everything you do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You will start showing up differently. You will start doing things differently. And like you said, like you can put yourself first, but still get the other stuff done. Like you obviously, like you don't want the place to be trashed all the time. But you also want to make sure your soul's not trashed. You want to, not that your soul will ever be trashed, but it's just like, you want to just make sure that you put that first, and then, you can still, your inner work, and then the rest of the work can come second. You can still do both things.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Yeah, it's pretty wild because, my sister actually just had her 3rd baby like earlier this week. And I'm just thinking about this too, because my niece is like a little bit over a year old. So, I can just imagine having a toddler and a baby, and like, it's making me think about, how I, as a sister, should show up more for her too, to like make sure she has the space for herself.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. That's really important. That's like, if you're listening to this and you are not a mother, but you know somebody who is, like, you can help them so much just by saying, hey, is there anything you need? Like, I can, if you feel comfortable, or if you feel like they would be comfortable, you can offer to watch their child for a few hours so they can go do something. Or you can even just be like, hey, I can come over and I can cook dinner for you guys, or I can help you clean up. Like, those little gestures that you offer to women that you know literally make a world of a difference. Like, just offering a little bit of help, it just goes such a long way. So if you know a mom and you know a mom that you love, reach out to them right now and be like, hey, is there anything you need? And I guarantee there probably will be.
Yeah. And I want mothers to know that, like, it's okay to, like, accept that help, like, it's still so true that it takes a village to raise children. And I feel like there's still this expectation that we can do it by ourselves, but it's a lot, it's a lot better for everybody to, like, help each other and, like, build that community back, and, like, hold space for each other, especially while, the new generation's being, like, raised and born. And it doesn't take away, like, oh, like, that doesn't make you, like, a better or, like, a worse mother. It just makes you able to, like, have help and have, like, your family around and your friends around, and, like, it's all good in the hood. Just, like, accept help.
Seriously, because it is a hell of a lot of responsibility. Like, and oftentimes it's more responsibility than one person can bear. So if you have access to help, definitely use it. Definitely use it. And if you don't have access to help, then you can reach out to the community as well. In most cities, there's, you can find a mom's group, or you can even create a mom's group, and you can have support in that realm. You can also use the internet, Instagram, Facebook. Like, you can reach out to people, at least to have, like, some mental and spiritual support. Because it does take a village, and so many people don't have that village, and it becomes a huge struggle, because we have all of these responsibilities on our plate, and it feels like when we literally are carrying the weight of the world, because what we do literally will impact the future of our world. So it's like, it can really be a lot. So accepting help, asking for help when you can, like, that's also a crucial part of taking care of yourself.
And even just, like, even if you don't feel like you really need help, just taking up that help to see what could happen, like, even if you don't feel like you need that help, like, oh, I don't really need them to come over and, like, make dinner or, like, help me out clean, but, like, why not? Why not? Even if it's just to hang out and have have somebody else over, or even if you don't really want people in your space or anything, just, taking that opportunity up, because it will for sure, like, just help out 100%.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that kind of makes me think about, like, I know that you're in, like, a, like, co-parenting situation. So I'm curious, like, about that, and, like, how you've been able to use that effectively to, like, your service.
Well, I had to accept that co-parenting, it's a really tough subject, because it's hard. Co-parenting is really hard. And it's difficult at first to have to give up time with your child that you could otherwise have if you were, with your partner. But if it's not working out and you have to separate, then you do have to sacrifice some time with your child. And that can be really difficult at first, but there's also a wonderful, bright aspect of it. And that lies in the fact that you now have more freedom. You now have more time to care for yourself and meet your needs and fall in love with yourself and do the things that you need to do. And it's actually a huge help, to be able to kind of take some of the weight off, and I mean, it's impactful for sure. It has been for me. It has really turned my life around since starting to co-parent. It was definitely difficult for me in the beginning, but now I realize, like, having some time to myself during the day has helped me build my business. It has helped me, be present with myself and get to know myself and do so many wonderful things outside of, being a mother.
No, yeah, for sure. So what do you do? Like, what did you do when you realized that like your energy with your significant other and your child's father like didn't start to match? Like what did what do you do in that situation?
I mean, to be honest, I didn't even realize that him and I weren't resonating. Like, it took me a really long time to realize it, basically.
Mm.
We had a lot of issues in our relationship, arguing all the time, butting heads all the time. And I realized, like, when he would come over to my home, because Sage lives with me, um, I would feel like this anxiety. There would be tension in the air. I would feel like, oh, I don't really want, you know, I don't really want him to be like in my space. And I realized like this is like him and I, we're not necessarily meant to be together. And I had to come to terms with that and realize that we can still be great parents and not be together. And we don't have to resonate. We don't have to see eye to eye on everything. But what we have to do is just make sure that we continue to show up as the best parents that we can be for our son. And that hasn't been an easy road at all, but it has been for the best, for sure.
No, yeah, I can only imagine. So what are some ways that like, because of course, like when you're feeling that anxiety and you're having to make that decision, it will in a way can create like resentment and like just like even just judgment and just uncomfortability with that person, and then knowing that like you're letting your kid go and be with them without you there. What are some ways that you were able to release that resentment and stuff with your ex-partner?
I had to really face everything that him and I went through together. I think that while we were together, I kind of just blocked it all out, the hurt and the pain that was going on in our relationship. And so when I ended it, it all kind of came flooding in, like, and I just felt the call, like, Sia, like, you need to face this. Like, that was like source speaking to me. And so I did a lot of releasing, a lot of like crying, a lot of facing, my shadow that was often present in situations with him, and a lot of shadow work, basically. And I had to realize too that he was, and both of us were acting out of pain. And I had to be like, you know what? We were both acting out of this painful space. But if I can work on myself and work through this pain and work to heal, then I don't have to act out of that space anymore. And it's daily work. I mean, it really is. It's, I don't show up perfectly every day. Sometimes something comes up about our past and I just like feel really upset and really angry. And, he comes over and I'm just like not in the best mood. So it's not every day is harmonious, of course. But I try my best every single day. And that's what I would say. If you're in this situation, just try your best. It's one step at a time, a little bit of healing at a time, a little bit of work at a time. It's not going to be a clean break. It's going to be a whole process. And that's okay. You just have to be kind to yourself and try to be as kind as you can to your partner or to your, to the other parent. And that's really all that you can do there.
Yeah. What does your co-parenting relationship look like? Like how do you guys co-parent?
Well, right now, Ryan, so Sage lives with me, and whenever Ryan is off work, he comes to my home and he picks Sage up and takes him out to various places. Like they go to the park together, they go to Ryan's sister's house, so that would be Sage's aunt, and he plays with his cousins, and they just go out and do fun stuff together. And then he brings Sage back when it's time for him to go to work. And that's just how it's been since him and I broke up. But even before then, we were co-parenting, because when we were together, we didn't live together. Sage lived with me. So we still had kind of like a co-parenting relationship there, but it was definitely easier then because we were together. So we could spend a lot of time together. Whereas now we don't really spend any time together at all. So it's just we're basically just strictly parents, and that's where we're at right now. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I bet that's definitely, especially since like you guys never really lived together. So that definitely like probably made like the situation even on Sage a lot easier.
Yes, definitely. Because there wasn't that period of like having to like move out or anything when we broke up or like move away from each other. It was already something that was established. the fact that he lives with me, and in the future he will probably start to spend some time staying at Ryan's house. His situation right now isn't necessarily suitable for a child, so he doesn't Sage doesn't go to his house right now, but in the future he will, and I'm gonna have to come to terms with the fact that I'm going to at some point have to spend a considerable amount of time away from my son, and that's something that I have to like really just basically end up being okay with. That's like what I signed up for when I decided to end this relationship for the better.
Yeah, I can imagine. So what does that like boundary process look like? Yeah, just like what does that boundary process kind of look like for you? Like, how do you create boundaries between like your ex and like yourself and like your child, and like making sure that like whatever's going on when one of you guys has your child, like how do you guys make sure that you're on the same terms with everything?
Well, communication is extremely, extremely important. You just have to make sure that you are very, very clear. And I actually have a situation that I can kind of give an example of. So when Ryan and I were together, he kind of treated my home like it was his home. And, that was fine at the time. But after we broke up, he still was doing the same thing, kind of like being in my house for like hours at a time, and like, eating my food and everything like that, and just like kind of being in my sacred space like all the time. And it was intense. I was like, I'm like spending so much time with this person that I just broke up with, and it was just really tense all the time. And I was like, and we got to a point one day where we got into an argument one time that was so bad that I felt like I needed to leave my own home to feel comfortable. And it was at that point that I realized, I was like, okay, I am allowing my boundaries to be crossed so heavily that I feel like I have to leave my sacred space, my home, to be, comfortable. And so at that point I was like, okay, boundaries. Him and I have not had good boundaries from this point forward. And I decided that it's time for us to set boundaries. And so I sat down with him. I was like, look, like this is going to be the agreement that we are going to have. I was very reasonable with everything. And I said it in the kindest, most respectful way. Like, I'm going to have you just come pick Sage up, and I'm going to meet you outside. And we're not going to be like hanging around in my house all the time now.
Yeah.
And I'll say that when you feel like you need to set a boundary, you have to also understand that your boundary will not always be met with respect. And even if it's not, even if the other person disagrees with your stance, you really have to stand your ground. As long as you're being reasonable and respectful, you have to stand your ground, because like you have to make sure that you are taking care of your own needs, and as long as you're still doing what's best for your child, you also have to do what's best for you. And in that situation, I just had to be firm. He wasn't happy about this new situation, but I stood firm in my ground, and now we have a way more harmonious relationship because we're not spending so much time in the same space together. Like it's literally just a few minutes every day we interact. And so it's just, things are so much more peaceful now.
Yeah, and I bet that helped you a lot because you were able to make a much more sacred and like loving space for yourself and your child.
Exactly.
Like it wasn't like you were having to like, he comes over and you're like, damn it, I just smudged the house. Like
Exactly. Yes. So I can be choosy about the energy that I allow in my space now, because like I can't change or control Ryan, and make him into a different person, but I can, I do have a little bit of control over how I allow him to interact in my space, So that's why I was like, I got to take control of the situation and put myself first here. And I did. And I'm grateful that I did. And I recommend that you make your boundaries really, really clear in a co-parenting situation.
Yeah, and know what your boundaries are. Like,
yes.
And basically, if something's making you uncomfortable, like, you're a human being, you don't have to live with that. Like,
no,
it's almost 2020. Like, know what you want, like, know what your vision is. And like, if something's not meeting that expectation for you or for your children, let it be known, and don't be scared to like, let it be known.
Exactly. Don't be. And I was a little bit scared at first to let it be known, but I realized that like, this is important, and not only is it important for me, but it's also, important for my child to learn from me how to set boundaries, because he's looking at me and he's like, If I'm just like letting my boundaries be crossed willy-nilly and just letting people walk all over me, do whatever they want, then he's watching that. And then, we'll turn around and use that kind of behavior in his relationships as well. But if I'm very clear on what I want and what I want for my life, then he will be too as he gets older. So yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, how do you use ritual and meditation to create a loving environment for your family?
That's something that's really, really important to me. Honestly, ritual is like such a vital part of my life simply because of that reason, because it creates a sacred space for me. So every morning I will meditate. I will journal. I like to write what I'm grateful for. I like to do affirmations. It kind of varies a little bit from morning to morning, but the ultimate goal is to put myself in a state of like gratitude, basically, so that when I start my day, I have, the way I show up literally will impact the rest of my day. So I make sure that I create a loving environment, a loving space for myself and my son. I involve Sage in the ritual as well. He likes to like watch the sage burn. He likes to write in my journal. Like he likes to draw and scribble and stuff. And I've noticed that when I do my ritual, when I make sure that I'm showing up in the way I want to show up, that I have more peaceful interactions with his father. I'm less on edge and I'm more peaceful. I'm able to like meet him from a more loving space. So there's less like conflict and less butting heads. So that is really, really crucial because co-parenting is really, really hard. And so you have to make sure you are cultivating a positive mental space so that you can handle those really tough challenges with a clear head.
Yeah, I can imagine. What are some rituals and stuff that you do to like create a loving environment and like include your kid in? Like, what are some things that moms can do to do that?
Yeah, so journaling is huge. I love to just I'll give Sage his own piece of paper and a pen, and then I'll have mine. And he likes to kind of write on mine sometimes, which I'm fine with. I'm not trying to like make it look pretty. It just, and he'll have his little pen and he'll, just scribble, and I'll be writing my gratitude list, and I'll say it out loud to Sage, and I'll smile at him. So he's kind of like feeling the energy. I'll say it to him. I'll tell him I love him. That's also a really great way to cultivate joy, is to just like look into your child's eyes and think about how much you love them and how grateful you are for them and them being in your life.
Just send them that energy.
Yes. And you will find yourself, because that love, that unconditional love that you have for your child is so pure, you will naturally start to raise your vibration. And that is really the goal of a ritual. And, I feel like some moms feel like they can't have a ritual because, oh, my kids are awake, and they want to do this and this. And like, you can involve them in the ritual. So it can become fun for both of you. It doesn't have to look like perfect, like meditation room, like you have your shrine and everything. You can just be on your bed and just, write something. It could be a battered up old notebook. Like it doesn't have to be beautiful. It's for you, and it's sacred, and you're not like, no one else is watching. You just do what makes you feel good and puts you in a good mental space, and figure out things that your children enjoy that they can get involved into your ritual as well.
And like start bridging that connection now.
Yes.
Like don't do it later. Don't like say, like, oh, they're too young or they'll distract me from it. No, like make it what it is, include them in it. And like, just because your kid's like laughing or like, wanting to do something different, or that doesn't like, make the ritual less powerful.
No.
Like it just adds that fun, playful energy into it, and like having your child's like innocence and joy in that ritual will make it so much more powerful for you and your family.
Seriously.
Because you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for your whole family and for like all the lives that you touch. So
yes. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've done my ritual while breastfeeding my son. Like it's stuff like that. And I honestly feel like, it really adds to it. Because when you breastfeed, you release those natural like love hormones. So you're already feeling the love, and then you're cultivating more love through writing. So it's like involving them, to me, makes it even more powerful. And then they're also observing you and how you put yourself first and how you, make sure that you're taken care of. And they'll take those lessons. Children learn from observation, like 100%. They learn from observation. So they're observing you do this every day, and they'll learn eventually you know, as adults, like I can do something similar. It'll probably look different for them because they're their own person, but they'll be observing, you know, the way, you know, mom took care of herself, the way that mom, you know, took time for herself, and think like, wow, I can do that too, you know?
No, I agree. Especially because, you know, a lot of it's so like normal to just like be on your phone or watch TV while you're breastfeeding, you know, and like that energy is just being flowed back into your child. So I feel like, you know, you're creating an energy exchange with each other. And like if you sit there, even if you just breathe or listen to a meditation or you're journaling or like, you know, even if you're doing affirmation, like all of that's going to funnel back into your child, making you a better mother. And you're not like, you know, frying your brain just sitting on your phone. Like
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I can't say, you know, I don't ever like scroll through my phone when I'm breastfeeding. Like that's definitely like a reality. But it's also like, it's also great to spend time cultivating those good feelings too, because you're right. It's like a circle. Like everything that you're feeling is going back into your child. Even the things that you're thinking, like your auras are literally intertwined during this time. You're so close. And so anything that you are consuming, whether that be food, whether that be television, whether that be whatever you're looking at on the internet, like it's coming through you into your child. So yeah, you're very right. Like we have to be mindful about what we're allowing into our space.
And like you said, that is a reality, and it's not like you can never look at your phone or do something like that, you know, but making sure that you're not doing it all the time, and making sure that like, you know, understanding that you can use that time as you know, a way to create space for yourself too.
Absolutely.
To tune into the sacredness that you are. Like, oh my gosh, you're feeding a whole like living being. Like, oh my God, you know?
Seriously.
Oh my gosh, I'm just thinking about how my sister right now, how she's gonna be breastfeeding 2 babies. Like,
wow, look at that.
That's gonna be
Amen.
wild. Damn. That's
cool. A super mom. I mean,
know.
Truly. I mean, moms are superheroes. Like whether you got 1 kid or 8 kids, like you're a freaking superhero.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, exactly. My mom even had me. I think my nephew and my 2 nieces are like the same age difference as like me and my brother probably. My mom had me, and then like I think exactly like 8 or 9 months after had my little brother. So
wow.
me and my little brother are super close because of that. Like people, like we're like twins, you know, that level of closeness. Yeah,
that's amazing.
He just had his first baby too. Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness. Look at you. Congrats.
I know. I think that's why I've been focusing on this like mother. Like I've actually recorded so many podcasts like with mothers recently, just because I'm so like curious, and I want to like know what they're going through, but I also create content that like can help my family, you know?
Yes, exactly that. And you know, mothers do go through a lot, and I think it's time that we, you know, really open up a real conversation about it, you know, about mothering, about co-parenting, about anything involving like, you know, children, because, you know, what we do and the way we impact our children will change the world. So we really have to make sure that we are cultivating a positive space for us to speak and for us to have conversations, even about the hard stuff, you know?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Like it's very important because there's just so many things going on these days that like you can't really trust the media at all with with parenting advice, or you know, we need to have a more safe each other. And you know, thank God for the internet, because it's really created a space where, you know, other women and mothers can, you know, show their experiences and their opinions and their thoughts. And then it's more room for, you know, other mothers to do the same, and to like also, you know, start to build that discernment. Like, do I agree with this? Do I not agree with this? And it's not just like, oh, like the media telling you like, oh, this is going on, or like, you know, or the doctors telling you, you know, what's right or what's wrong or what's going on. Like, you know, I'm so thankful for the internet, because it's helped, you know, create more room for where mothers can learn about different things that we might not know about.
Exactly. Yeah. Learning from experience. I mean, honestly, when I am concerned about something like going on with Sage, like the first thing people I reach out to are mothers who have been through the same thing, because they're going to have a lot more knowledge than just like an article, you know, on Google. You know, so I always reach out, like, what was your experience? How did you solve this? How did you deal with this? Is this normal? And a lot of the times in those situations, you'll find like thousands of moms have been through the same thing, and it's completely normal, and you're not alone, and there is a solution, you know. So that's why having the internet is really, really impactful.
Yeah. And it's really cool because, like, you know, especially with, you know, things like right now with like vaccines and even like with like daycares or, you know, other like school, like crazy shit that's going on in school. It's like, I'm so thankful that, you know, it's a space where we can create like real conversations that need to be had, you know, even with postpartum depression and stuff like that, like being able to be like Facebook groups for mothers to like go and like talk to each other and like get advice, like, oh, that is so powerful. I'm so thankful.
Oh yeah, the internet is freaking changing the world, because it is powerful, because in the past, like, if you deal with something like that, you feel like there's no one else that relates to it, you know.
And it's hard to talk about those things in person, you know. It is you know, and so being able to like talk about it with somebody over the internet, that's so much easier. Like, it's so much easier.
Definitely. It really is, because there's that vulnerability, you know, and it can be hard to just go up to a group of strangers and just like, hey, this is what I'm going through. Whereas like when we create these spaces, these safe spaces on a place like maybe Facebook, like you feel more comfortable knowing that like you know what to expect, and you feel comfortable knowing that these people have been through the same thing and they will be there for you, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of like baby boomers and like people from older generations, they have this perspective like, oh, millennials or like, you know, all these other generations, like we don't know how to have conversations offline, but I don't think that's true. Like, you know, we just have another place to go to have conversations that we might not be able to have to in person, because how many fucking conversations got avoided before there was internet?
Exactly that. Yeah, we obviously can still communicate with each other. Otherwise there wouldn't even be like a world to live in, you know. Like we're still having these deep in-person conversations, but we now have this other tool, this other realm basically of communication and of connection that is allowing us to evolve at a more rapid pace than we ever have. You know, because we're just constantly people are constantly connecting with each other. Like, it's just every second there's millions of people connecting with each other and sharing ideas and sharing their voice and speaking up, and we're just creating so much evolution. I mean, it is unfathomable.
It's insane. And especially because, like, you know, especially with Instagram and like Tumblr and stuff like this, like it's become the modern day journal. You know, of course it's public, like it's not private usually, but it is a space where people can like really share like what's going on in their lives and like who they are. And like sometimes people don't like authentically like show themselves through these forums, but you know, people like us, like we do show like, you know, what our lives are like and like what we think and how we feel. And like, that's really good. And I remember like being younger and my parents just being like, why are you sharing all this stuff on the internet? You know, like, why are you doing this? It's like, I mean, you don't get it. Like, this is like our journal, you know, this is where we can, like, share our thoughts and like,
it is.
You know, and then it's not just like, oh, it's like stuck in our head. We're like building conversations around it. So
we talk about it. We get the support we need. I feel like
it's super cool.
In the past, like before the internet, I feel like a lot of people just kept it all in. You know, maybe you would have like the one or two people that you could talk to about things, but other than that, like you didn't really have any other perspective. So when in reaching out through social media, you get different perspectives of people that don't know you, but that can be such a good thing because they're not like biased, you know, about who you are and what your situation is. So you can get like fresh new perspectives about things, and that really is a great tool.
Yeah, no, I can definitely say like part of my spiritual journey was like thanks to the internet, you know, like my awakening, like meeting friends and then like meeting them in person and being like, oh yeah, like I followed you for a long time or something, you know. Those are the relationships that sparked, you know, my spiritual journey, just because we knew we were into the same shit already.
Seriously.
Online. But yeah, it's really cool. And I think that, you know, mothers should definitely use it as like a powerful resource for them to find themselves, share themselves, and learn about, you know, what's going on.
Absolutely.
So we have a few, like maybe like 10 or 15 minutes left in the interview, and I wanted to hold this space for you to like, well, I have a few like lightning round questions. So like one is like, what what is like one, like, if there's something that you just want the viewers to hear, would that be? Like, what medicine words do you have for them right now? Just like deep in your soul, if you can dig in, what is something that you feel like you just would like to share with anybody who could be, going through anything in this world?
That it's okay to go through hard shit sometimes. I think in the spiritual community, sometimes we forget that, building a positive mindset is important, but it is also important that you are okay with your shadow, that you are okay with feeling sadness, feeling anger, feeling grief. That's all part of the human experience.
Yeah.
And you are allowed to feel the full spectrum of emotions. In fact, it's a gift to feel the full spectrum of emotions. And it's okay. It is okay to be true to yourself and be true to your feelings and sit with them and be okay with who you are and what you're feeling.
I agree, because there's like all these t-shirts and shit that says like no bad vibes or like good vibes only, and it's just like, no. Like, yeah, sometimes we do feel bad, sometimes we do feel good, sometimes there are things are in our lives that are toxic, and like that's okay, like we can work through it, and like we should not, like, in the spiritual community, like that's something that I see a lot of people working on, is like not like sterilizing it to be like good vibes only. Like, no,
exactly.
Like, it's okay to feel these things that might not be comfortable, might not be, that you like, and it's okay to share them too, if you're doing it in a respect, and if you're doing it in a respectful way, of course. Don't just like go and like rain on everybody's parade, or like put out negative energy, but like it's okay to like be your full self.
Exactly.
And don't expect yourself to be anything other than that. So
exactly that.
I agree. I totally agree with that. So what would like a session with you look like say with a life coaching session, if there's like a mother who, maybe they might need this or they might not need it, but like what would that look like what kind of space do you create with that?
Well, usually I do virtual meetings. So what that would look like is I will have you fill out a form and just talk a little bit about on the form about what you were wanting to work on in your life, what you were really struggling with, whether that be in motherhood or just like your spiritual journey, something that you just really want to work on. And I just have them talk openly about that. And then I will kind of structure it so that we can work through things that you may not have even thought you needed to work through. An example of something that I do a lot with mothers is building intuition, because that is a tool that can be used in any aspect of your life. And it is very, very important. So we will just sit and create a safe space where you can talk openly about what you may have been dealing with or what you may be dealing with. And we will work through like the real, like raw things behind it. So whether that be fears that you have about stepping into to a higher place of life, whether that be limiting beliefs that you hold about who you can be, we're going to work through that. And then we're going to release those things that are holding you back from being your truest self. And we will figure out like, what is your deep, deep soul purpose? Like, what is that thing that lights your soul on fire? And what can you do to make sure you integrate that into your life? And we will create an action plan to make that happen. And it is really a beautiful process of blossoming. Yeah.
That's really powerful. That sounds amazing. I feel like that's definitely a service that is needed right now. So thank you for your work that you do. And then the last question is, what is the wildest medicinal experience you've ever had in your life?
Oh, goodness. Well, this could get a little bit wild. I will definitely have to say that it would be going to a festival. I went to a festival this was long before Sage, and I went to this red tent event at the festival, and I meditated with all these amazing women with a huge crystal. I don't remember what kind it was, but it was probably about like 2 times the size of my head. In between us, it like literally was huge in between us all, and we all meditated, and she did Reiki on me, and it was like the most incredible experience. And later that night, had some medicinal mushrooms, and it was like full activation. Like I released so many blockages that I had about loving myself, because I was at a point in my life where I really didn't like myself. And I released a lot of that, and I cried and I danced all night to the music that they were playing, and just like, it was just the most incredibly amazing release. All of the events that led up to that moment, I just like it really is held true to my heart, that experience.
Hell yeah, dude. What an activating, dude. Red tents are so powerful. Like,
yes,
they've definitely evolved. Like, they're not exactly traditionally what they were, but I think it's really cool that like festivals and like consciousness festivals are bringing back the red tent in a way where women can still come together and heal and activate with each other. And it's crazy. Yeah. There's like a yoga festival here in Houston called Universal. And this year they had a red tent, and the two women that hosted the red tent were so powerful. And they actually allowed me to hold a 2-hour sound bath in the red tent. So, and it was really cool because it started with just females, and then throughout the sound bath, like some men actually did come in and like enjoy it too. And it was really cool to be like, damn, like we're at a place in history where, you know, men are coming in the red tent to heal too, and that's okay. You know, that's okay. Yeah. And, you know, I think men need to be a part of this conversation too, you know, especially because we are in like a time where there's a lot more co-parenting going on, and like, you know, women can't be the only ones who are becoming conscious with this parenting experience, but men do too, you know. And I think it's really beautiful that you're able to raise your child in like a conscious way, and like, and by doing that, you're showing, you know, your child's father and your partners that you're with that, hey, like this is, you know, this is how to raise a child, and like they can eventually like match up to that vibration. And like,
absolutely. Yeah. And that is also a really great payoff of doing inner work, is that, you know, no, you can't change people, but you will notice that as you begin to show up differently, others do too. Like, they'll still be themselves, you know, they're not gonna become you, but you'll notice that somebody who maybe used to be angry a lot will start to show up in a more peaceful way, you know, as you do. They'll start to kind of reflect that, because, you know, people are constantly like tapping into your energy and kind of in some senses like feeding off of it. So when you kind of create like some protection around yourself, first of all, but then create like a heavenly space around yourself, people will start to like tap into that and become resonant with it, you know?
Yeah, that's how you influence you know, the people in your life. And, you know, and I know, like, I have so many friends and like even just family members who like, you know, the woman like wants to like explore the spirituality, but then at the same time, like her man or like her family or, you know, other people in their life don't like know what the hell that is, and a lot of times will judge it. And it's like, it's just like, I just want anybody out there to know who is going through that, where maybe you're in a situation with like a significant other or like your parents or your friends, and like they're not like aware of like that reality yet. It's still okay for you to embody it. Like, even if, especially if you have a child, and say like, you know, your husband or your baby's father is not or even like the mother is not at a space where they understand like why you need to meditate, why you need to dance, why you need to like, you know, like do these creative like soul searching things. It doesn't matter. Like, you know why you need it, and that's okay. And like, by just you doing it, that will help them understand why you need it more, because they will see the difference and you will see the difference. And that's how you're going to influence not just your child, but yourself and the people in your life. Like, we can't just like wait to do our self-work until this shit is normalized. Like, we got to do it so it becomes normalized. And that's how it's going to happen.
We got to do it now. We got to do it now. And you can, a good point to make on that is that you can coexist with somebody who doesn't necessarily resonate with what you're doing. You can still have a harmonious coexisting relationship there, and love them for where they're at, and they can love you for where you are. You know, there's no, you don't want to like label somebody good or bad or right or wrong because they're not doing this kind of work. Just be you. And the people who are going to love you for who you are and who you're becoming will stick around, and the people who don't want to love you for who you're becoming will fall to the wayside.
Yeah, that's how it's going to happen. And you know, we're in a time where you know, the consciousness of the planet and the consciousness of humanity as a collective is hiring, it is raising, and like people are still catching up, and some people will say it's not happening, but they're just catching up. They're just catching up.
It is. The people who say that it's not happening, I'm like, you'll know one day.
Yeah,
like you'll be riding this wave and be like, dang, I really should have listened.
I know. It's like, dude, look at your life 7 years ago. Like, I think 2012 was, like almost like 7 years ago. And it's like, you know, think about life before 2012. Like, things are shifting. Like, things are changing.
Seriously.
And I'm so thankful to like know so many mothers in my life and see so many mothers like in life, like choosing to show up to be conscious and like raise their child in like a holistic and conscious way. Like, thank you so much for that work that you're doing. And then thank you for showing other mothers like that they can do this too.
Yeah, we are changing the world, literally. One kid at a time. We are changing the freaking world.
Yeah. And it's sad because I hear so many people like literally like, you know, my roommate and my partner and stuff, they're like, I don't really know if I want to bring a kid into this world because it's like already fucked up and stuff. And it's like, that's not how you're going to change the world. Like, you know, like people are going to have kids no matter what, you know, that's like going to continue to happen. And like, it's a beautiful thing. And it's an opportunity for us to raise a new generation that thinks and sees life in a different way and doesn't tolerate the mess that's been created by past generations. And you know, like just like that's not a reason for me. Like I'm just always like like that's, and they're like, no, that's just because you're a woman, that's why it's your perspective. I'm like, I don't care, but like that must show like my intuition showing, dude. Like that's not the answer to fixing the world, like not having children, you know.
No, it's definitely not. And I know some people don't feel the calling to have kids, and that's okay. But
that's good. That's okay.
But I mean, that's fine. But at the same time, it's like you can have that perspective that the world is like messed up, and like there's nothing we can do about it, and like or you can have the perspective that you can help the world. And obviously you don't want to put the weight of the world on your child or anything like that. But you are helping the world by bringing a child into the world and raising them in a holistic way. You know, you are helping make this world a better place by doing that, and I mean, it's powerful work. It really is.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you for all that you do. And so where can people find you? Like, how can people continue to like find you and work with you and experience all the magic you have?
Yeah, so I am most active on my Instagram page, Mama Solaris. That's MAMA SOLARIS. And you can find me there. And I post a lot of my stories. I talk about a lot of this stuff. And you can also find me on my website at mamasolaris.com. So yeah, I mean, seriously, like it is popping over on Mama Solaris on my Instagram page. So if you want to be a part of these kinds of conversations about motherhood and co-parenting, then definitely join in and join the tribe.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, and yeah, much blessings.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope you have an awesome day.
You too.
Bye.
Wow, what a beautiful podcast. I am incredibly grateful for everything that Sia brought up and every single aspect that this conversation carried through. A lot of the different topics brought a lot more awareness into my life and my mind on what it actually means to be a mother, and, some of the stuff that we can do to help the mothers in our lives and be there for the women who are literally birthing the new generation. I hope that you guys felt the same way and that you guys really vibed with it and really took a lot from this beautiful podcast. Definitely give us a rating, share it, subscribe. If you're interested in knowing more about Sia and keeping up with her, you can follow her on Instagram at Mama Solaris. It's SOLARIS. And then she also has a website that's mamasolaris.com. And if anybody is looking for support, they can find her free Mothers Empowerment group on Facebook under the name Mindful Mamas Master Soul. And I'm not a part of the group, but I can imagine how powerful it would be to just welcome yourself into a community where you can talk to other mindful mothers. And yeah, I really hope that you guys enjoyed this podcast. I'm excited for another upcoming episode. And yeah, much love, sending infinite gratitude, and just so many blessings to you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening and being a part of this Wild Medicine podcast. So much love, and carry on with grace.